Would it be nice to have a video of it? Probably not, because it'd probably land me in jail. My first car I chose to go after this record and this run was actually a Ford Taurus police car. I'm kind of a Ford guy, and I started sourcing them, looking around the country for one, and I'd found one down in North Carolina. And as everybody knows, police cars are just used so hard, and they're beaten so badly. So then I'd moved on to a Hellcat, a Charger Hellcat. I had sourced one at a junk salvage yard. I wasn't buying a brand new Hellcat. I'm looking in the junkyard for one, because that's what I do. That's how I built the Cobra. I found a junk Cobra and built another Cobra. Found one in a junkyard, had light damage on each end of it. It was going to be a forever car, something I planned on keeping, and started doing some research and things on the car, watching the car come up for auction, and reading some forums and stuff. Some people were saying that there was front fascia issues with the cars under, long runs of heat that actually warped the front fascia. Well, the idea behind the Hellcat was I was going to make it look like a cop car, so I had to change the front fascia and limit the air in the front of it. After some homework, I scratched the idea with the Hellcat, and I moved on to a Scat Pack Charger. We were going to mobile refuel the car, and the way we were going to do that was we were going to have a tank in the back seat, and what we were going to do, it was going to be set up so I'd have 2 blockers in a box trucks, and I would have a minivan with a bulk tank, and would clip them off and ground them, and they could pump from the minivan into the back window of the Charger, and then we could fill the main tank as well. So as that went on, I started sourcing some Scat Packs and some salvage yards and things like that. I had already, got a front fascia and a rear bumper cover to make it look like a police car. Same idea. Car had good top speed. Fuel mileage at the speeds was kind of something that deterred me from the Scat Pack. The fuel mileage in Chrysler's has really never been good. And this car, for what I was going to try to do with like one fuel exchange, because when you're talking mobile refueling, you're going to do it once. You're not going to have 15 cars set up across the country to mobily refuel you. So this was going to be a one and done. And I just didn't think I could make it on a one and done. So as things went on, something kind of come across me. I'm a Ford guy. I don't want to do this in a Dodge. I wanted a Ford. And I've always liked the S550s. And I had always planned on getting another one. And the only way to do this on short order was to rent one. So I started, doing some research on the Mustang and the weight of it. It's a 3,700 pound car, top speeds, 155 listed, 159 actually. And I started weighing up things and figuring out how I could put tanks in it so the car would have a good balance and measure out the tanks. I had a tank that obviously I could source from the Cobra, and I put that tank in there. So that car's actually made 2 record runs, which is pretty cool. And the other tanks, basically I sourced online. I started chasing around, trying to find things that fit, but not only find tanks that fit, find some sort of certified tank. The ideal reason was safety. And I know everybody's gonna look at this. What's safe about 130 gallons in a car? There's nothing really safe about it, we'll just be honest. But you can actually make some safety measures to have a decent tank, because even on some of these runs in the past, these guys have had factory tanks that have ruptured, or Jerry Bisson, I think in his truck, had a fuel cell that just dissolved and started leaking. So the ideal was to get tanks that would fit, that had some sort of certification and some sort of manufacturing, that I wasn't going to have to explain why all this fuel smell is in this car when I turn it back in. That was a big key in the car, was finding one that by the time you removed everything, and by the time you added everything, or by the time you filled it with fuel, the car was still within the stock capabilities of the brakes, the suspension, still capable of a good top speed. The good thing about the Mustang is it could get back to its top speed relatively quickly, being light, being nimble, burning off the fuel in the rear tank first. And as I said 100 times, it's just like throwing somebody out the window every 3-4 hours. That to me was like the ideal car for what I wanted to do. Some people have tossed around different ideas, but to me it meant more to do it in the Mustang because I'm a Ford guy. And number 2, there just really wasn't a better car for me to do it in. They aren't renting a bunch of Audis. They're not renting a bunch of AMGs. So it really was kind of an only option thing. The Chargers were a little too big, a little too bulky. I needed something basically for one person because nobody else was going with me. Once my brother decided he wasn't going with me, then it was basically my comfort zone, air-conditioned seats, and a gas pedal is all I needed. I sourced all the ALPs off of the Cobra, which made it really, really simple to convert everything over, put them on. Drilled very, very small and minor holes that are unnoticeable to the naked eye unless you really knew what you were looking for. Added the light bar on the front of it. Now, a lot of people ask, why the light bar? Why would you take the time to put a light bar on a car like this? And it's really simple because you outdrive the headlights. Anybody that's driven at a high rate of speed, even in these stock cars, yes, they're designed to drive 155 miles an hour. But when you're doing this for an extended amount of time, you need to be able to see a ways in front of you, because what normally is coming up in seconds is coming up in less than seconds at this point, whether it's wildlife, whether it's an officer, whether it's, another car changing lanes. The light bar is really, really important because if you don't have it at those speeds, you can really outdrive your headlights. And anybody that's ever, ridden anything at a high rate of speed would understand what I'm saying. Most of these modifications I had to do had to be stuff I could put back easily, because if I couldn't put it back or I over modified the car, now I'm taking a car and I have to go have a bumper cover painted, or I have to have a tail cover painted, or I've drilled a hole here, or have to find some way to cover it up. Whereas most everything in the car, like my tablet had a tablet mount, but the tablet mount was zip tied to the passenger side visor, so I could see within my eyesight, I could see what was going on in Waze, and I didn't have to keep clicking out of it. I could watch it the whole time. I chose the Mustang, and I really realized today why it was such a better car than the Chrysler. I've got a Chrysler rental car right now, and the mirrors are terrible in it. You cannot see anything out of that car. The Mustang actually has blind spot mirrors on it as well as the regular mirrors, so you can not only just see who's coming up alongside you, but you can see your blind spot. Now, that helps because at that point I could see who was behind me, and I could turn my rear view mirror to an angle where I could see some of the exit ramps. So I could see them quicker. When I went by, I could see if there was somebody sitting on them, which was a big part of my own spotting. Spotting for myself doing a solo is way different than a team. It's completely different. It's a different realm of cannonballing or transcontinental running, or however you want to put it. You are everything. There's nobody there going to get you a drink. There's nobody there that's going to spot the cop that's over here or over there. So my head is constantly on a pivot the whole entire time, checking my mirrors, checking my Waze, checking everything around me and looking ahead. At that point, nothing else matters. And that's why I wasn't over gadgetized on this car of trying to refresh the glimpse and refresh everything while I'm going down the road. People ask me about filming it, and it's like, I don't have time to mess with my GoPro. I ain't got time to see if it's plugged in. It's all stuff that if I don't accomplish my goal, then none of the rest of it matters. Would it be nice to have a video of it? Probably not, because it'd probably land me in jail. The carefree way I did it, I think honestly is the only reason I achieved the goal I did. The car was, subtle enough that if you saw it in your mirror, you would immediately think maybe this is a pursuit car. But on the other hand, too, it blended in enough that it goes by at a high rate of speed, and you see an antenna on the back. It's kind of disregarded. And I dialed back like the police theory, like if I could put a push bar on it, or I could do that. Because I think at this point, the cops are kind of onto that. There's enough of those charges on the road where if you're randomly going 150 in that area in one of those cars, it kind of stands out more. Because if you're an officer in that area and a cop car goes by at 150 miles an hour, you're probably going to want to know where that cop's going. So it's kind of, creates its own red flag. With the fueling setup we had in the car, with the one stop, it was really ideal. It gave me a few minutes, to kind of do a few stretches, stretch out, get my legs back about me, get my bearings back about me, get my balance. So the rental car, to me, was the best option for what I wanted to do. There's no commitment. I didn't have to buy it. If it broke, I'd just turn the thing in and it's somebody else's problem. And for me, that was the easiest way to do it. There's no payment at the end of the month. There's no insurance. So for, I think it was $600, including the $200 deposit, you can have it back. you can have the car back. When I went to the rental car company, my buddy who refueled me had dropped me off. At first, didn't even look the car over. I was just so happy that I actually found a Mustang I could do it in. And there was none other on the lot. And I just kind of went up to the lady and asked her if she'd rent it to me. And she was like, yeah, I'll rent it to you. And never checked, nothing whatsoever. And she just filled out the paperwork. I don't think I was there 3 minutes, which was record timing for a rental car company. She signed the paperwork, took my card information, and I was in the car. I kind of just walked around it. You do a preliminary, make sure there's no door dings or stuff they're gonna knock you for, and check the mileage on it. Took a screenshot of what the mileage was before I left, and took the car out, and tires and stuff looked to be pretty decent on the car. However, I didn't account for the high sustained speeds at 130 plus. Because systematically during this run, it took the middle of the tire out. So we came back and we did the bandit run with the same car. We actually blew a tire on the rental car. A rental car that I had rented to purposely break this record. And then I wasn't happy enough. I got in the car, loaded up my dad, and headed to Atlanta to go break another one. And halfway through the bandit run, it blew one of the tires. And when I mean blew the tire, there's literally chunk missing out of the tire this big. As I drove the car kind of wore itself out. And that's why everybody says don't buy a rental car from a rental car company. And after the bandit run, before I turned the car in, I literally had to put tires on it. So I went to a little guy's shop, and he had some used tires. Well, there was 2 Michelins, the exact right size, that he had in his used tire pile. He kind of held us up. A guy had kind of cut in front of us, so we were sitting there and we're jacking up the car, and I want to get out of here, so I'm ripping the tires off. And this is an old timer. He's probably 70 years old in his little tire shop. And I wheel him over, and I'm cleaning the water out of the tires to get them mounted on. And we get them all put on there, and we start talking, and he says, you all set? He goes, is that all you need? I said, yeah. I says, what's the total? And I'm thinking, to replace these tires, if I was to buy new tires, $400. I'm thinking $400 all day long for new tires. I understand these aren't new tires. So the guy looks at me and he goes, well, you and your dad did all the work. How's $20 sound? I'm like, $20? What do you mean $20? He's like, well, you did all the work and stuff on it. I said, I couldn't put one of them tires on that for $100. He goes, you guys waited a little too long. And he said, you guys did all the work. And he goes, I appreciate you coming in. So I gave the guy a $100 bill, and I was like, felt like I was out of jail free. So we took the car back, and strangely enough, it's still got the same tires on it in the pictures. Well, one of the best things about this car that I'm not terribly used to is climate control. None of my previous run cars, the Galaxy, the Cobra, none of them had any climate control in them whatsoever. So that in itself helped a lot to keep me, acclimated. If I was a little too cool, a little too hot, I could adjust. I had air-conditioned seats. Ergonomically, I felt really good in the car. It's really only a 2-passenger car. People will say what they want, but you might put a 6-pack of beer in the back seat. You're not going to put anything else. I was very comfortable how I mounted everything in the car. I felt good. My mirrors were really good on the car. They had good location. Could see traffic really well out of the mirrors. All the stuff that was suction cup to the windows, I had moved accordingly so I could have the most view out of the front window. The radar detector I had really high. The timer I had down on the dash so I could make the most view of the car possible. For my countermeasures, they were pretty general basic stuff that's available to everybody. We used a ALP laser jammer system. Fortunately for me, saw no laser across the United States, which was unusual, but thankful in the same way. The ALP system was sourced from my Cobra that we did the 2019 run. My brother purchased it for that, and we put it in that car. That car was in Oklahoma. I had to update a couple of the sensors on it. That pretty much took care of the ALP system, really pretty much plug and play. Already filtered out. I did test it, went through the test parameters on it. Everything seemed to work fine. I used a unit in R3 radar detector. The latest model back in probably September 2019. I think they got a new R7 out now. It just came out. Same thing. Everything filtered, K filtered out of it. Just a very good radar detector. I highly recommend it to anybody, attempting to do anything to monitor the police speeds in their area. Always been good for me. It's made several trips across the country with myself and my brother. Neither one of us have either been pulled over or had a ticket. So the unit in R3 is a good piece. I was very happy with that. What we did for timer is, it was really pretty simple. I used my Apple phone. So I used the Apple timer, which you can see in some of the pictures. I used the automobile timer as well. Ford has a timer that runs right on the dash. It keeps track of all your mileage, keeps track of your fuel mileage, your regular mileage, the mileage of the car, estimated fuel economy and stuff. Beyond that, I had a iTablet mounted on the passenger side visor, and that ran my Waze, so I could keep track of officers and keep track of some of the traffic. What I made sure I did between my Google Maps and my Waze is I made sure they were on the same route. And that's one thing that a lot of people, that kind of almost cost us some time in LA last September, was our Waze and our Google Maps routes were conflicting. And I made sure those were synced, so I had them both on the same route. Google Maps, I chose to use that rather than Apple Maps because Google now updates with officers. So there's some officers updates on that. So we used Google Maps, we used Waze, unit in R3, Apple timer, car timer, and my phone. Unless you really have a nice CB that's tuned, you're just not gonna go anywhere with it. You're not gonna talk to anybody that's more than a mile away from you. So it's just a real general basic Cobra CB. It's not really a handheld, it's just this real simple small unit, basically so you can communicate with the truckers around you, or if you do get stopped somewhere, a lot of times they'll give you little updates of what's going on. So just a little Cobra CB so that I could kind of keep up with what was going on around me and talk to the truckers. I ate beef jerky, pretty much. That was all I ate the whole entire time. If anybody asks, I'd say the beef jerky is the official food of the Cannonballers. Maybe there's some people out there that like things, but the other question I get always asked is, well, how did you go to the bathroom? How did you do this? How did you do that without stopping? And it's really simple. And I've told this philosophy 100 times. If you don't put it in, it doesn't have to come out. So there's no greasy cheeseburgers on this ride. There's no, anything that's going to possibly upset your stomach. Literally, it's Cliff Bars, it's beef jerky, just really simple, salty things, because the salt obviously helps take away some of the fluid in you too. So it's kind of a general balance of fluids and salted meats and crackers and stuff.
You're here because you like a good car story. But let's be honest, we probably watched enough YouTube videos for a lifetime during the pandemic. It's time to get out of the house and make a story of your own. Extreme Experience puts you in the driver's seat of some of the world's most exciting cars, like this 2020 Corvette C8, at over 30 racetracks across the country. And right now, we're giving away $50,000 for the track experiences and 30% off everything on our website. Head to xxspeed.com to learn more today.